Hi, and welcome to Anne's Family Recipe. Today I'm making potato filling. Potato filling is a staple Thanksgiving recipe in my sister Kate's family. She is from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and this recipe was passed along to her many years ago from one of her friends. It's a cross between mashed potatoes and stuffing, and it just has the quintessential flavors of Thanksgiving. It is so good. So let's get started. For this recipe, I would recommend using a stuffing mix out of a bag or in a box. My sister said she uses Martin's potato roll stuffing mix, but my grocery store only had the soft dinner rolls, so I wanted to be as close to her recipe as possible. So I made my own stuffing mix, which was totally unnecessary, but very easy. So I just cubed up the bread, toasted it in an oven at 275 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes until it got nice and golden brown. Just watch it so it doesn't burn, and you can use it like regular stuffing mix. Next, I prepped my potatoes. So I scrubbed and dried about 5 large baking potatoes, and then I had to peel all of them. Then I cut them into fairly small chunks. The smaller you cut your pieces of potato, the faster they'll cook. I just put them in a big pot of cold water and then brought it up to a boil and allowed them to cook for about 15 minutes or until they were fork tender. To flavor my stuffing mix, I diced up 1 sweet onion and then added it into a skillet with 1 tablespoon of melted butter. Now, my sister's recipe does call for 2 stalks of celery as well, which is a very classic traditional flavor for stuffing. Go ahead and add that if you'd like, but we just don't really care for the flavor of celery in our family, so we omitted that ingredient. I sauteed the onions for a few minutes until they started to soften and get golden around the edges. Then I added my homemade stuffing mix into the skillet with the softened onions. And I added about a cup of chicken broth to start and stirred it around. I also added about half a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, just for a little bit of that kind of quintessential Thanksgiving-y flavor in the background of my stuffing. So that would include a mix of marjoram, thyme, sage, and maybe a little rosemary too. Now, once I started stirring this all together, I decided that it needed a little more broth. So I added an additional cup of chicken broth, which means there were 2 cups total in my stuffing mixture. When the potatoes had finished cooking, I drained them, and then I added a 1/4 cup of whole milk, a 1/3 cup of sour cream, half a stick of unsalted butter at room temperature, and 1 egg yolk. And then after that, I seasoned them to taste with salt and pepper. Now be careful with your egg yolk. I made a total mistake. I dropped the egg yolk on top of the hot potatoes and then it basically scrambled as it sat there, which I shouldn't have done. It didn't ruin the dish by any means, but make sure that your egg is at room temperature and then add it at the very last minute right before you mash your potatoes, and you shouldn't have any problems. Once my potatoes were all mashed up, I scooped the stuffing mix into the mashed potatoes and then stirred it all together. The final step is to bake your potato filling. So I greased my 5-quart Dutch oven. It calls for a casserole dish. I didn't have one quite deep enough, so I just used my Dutch oven, which worked fine. I buttered it with about a tablespoon of butter or so, and then I put the entire potato filling mixture inside. I made sure that the top was pretty evenly spread out, and then I used another couple tablespoons of butter and just dolloped them all over the top. This bakes at 350 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes. The butter will be nice and melted and the top is going to be crispy and golden brown. This potato filling makes the perfect Thanksgiving side dish, although I actually served this to my family on a weeknight with the baked ham and it was equally as delicious. It is such a comforting and cozy dish. Definitely hot right out of the oven, so just be careful when you bite into it. But it's a combination of creamy mashed potatoes and savory stuffing that you are going to absolutely love. Please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you like today's recipe. Thank you so much for joining me today in my kitchen, and I'll see you again soon with another family recipe.